Good morning, America. Welcome to the Say It With Your Chest podcast. If you woke up on the right side of the dirt this morning, give me 2 chest beats and a Ric Flair.
Woo! My boy Rudy said, "Good morning, America." I love the enunciation, man. Keep that up. One of my favorite philosophers, Mr. Jay-Z, Sean Carter, said, "I'm not black, I'm OJ." Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about light skin versus dark skin. It's something that's been going on within the African American community. Some people think it's a problem, some people think it's not. So today we're going to address it. Well, as you already know, it's your boy E Fitness. I'm the instigator. I'm also Mr. the guy that doesn't need an introduction. I'll let my boys introduce themselves and we'll go ahead and get to it today.
And it's your boy Chest Out Rudy, a.k.a. Haitian Sensation, a.k.a. Haitian Fresh. But call me Chest Out.
It's your boy Chest Out Corey, a.k.a. Commercial Corey, Mr. Walking Billboard. Chest Out.
There we go. Hey, Rudy, man, what's happening this week?
What's happening? Hey, did you guys hear about Tekashi?
Flakashi?
Oh, man.
He flopped.
He's all over the news right now.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So check this out. This is what I heard. Originally, he was projected to sell 150,000 records. He was going to be number one. He's competing with Big Sean right now. He was projected to sell 125 million. That was in the beginning of the week.
Good
Towards the end of the week, they stated that he's only projected to sell about 45,000, and that's because he feels as though he's being blackballed by the industry. Hey, if you try to go against the industry, you're never going to beat the machine that created you. So
you're talking about Mr. Social Media?
And Mr. Social Media, Mr. Soul.
Mr. Clout Chaser.
Yeah, what? Mr. Clout Chaser, only 45,000. So it looks like he's scheduled to flop. So we'll see what happens with that. Well, now we're going to get to a serious topic. So earlier I mentioned that Jay-Z once had a line that says, "I'm not black, I'm OJ." And what he was talking about specifically was an incident in which O.J. Simpson, everyone knows about O.J. Simpson, he was on trial for murder. And they questioned him about something pertaining to it or in his career, and his response was, "I'm not black, I'm OJ." Typically, well, signifying that he doesn't want the color of his skin to define who he is. Nowadays in society, I've at least personally witnessed a lot of people that don't identify as black because of the color of their skin, even though they were born to African American parents. So I just want to open up the discussion and talk to you guys about it. Is that something that you guys have seen? Have you noticed that people are kind of sway away from being black because they're light skinned, or do they get picked on because they're considered light skinned, or not as black because they're light skinned?
For me, I think I saw that like happening more and more earlier on. Nowadays, it's not as bad as it used to be back in the day. But I mean, I can remember situations where like different groups of friends would mock the others because they were darker than the other. So I mean, I've seen it before, but I don't see it that much anymore.
Okay. What about you?
Well, I remember growing up, like the echo of what Rudy was saying just then, when we went against, we could be jonesing somebody or joking with somebody, clowning somebody, and if you're a certain complexion, I'm a certain complexion, and I'm that lighter version, the first thing I say is something about your skin complexion, about being dark.
Yeah.
And to me,
you care to share one of those jokes?
No.
Go ahead.
No, because I sat back. I was the fly on the wall. So I was the person that sat there and watched what was happening. But to see that, and I think to this day, I think it still goes on to this day. I think kids growing up, they use it as a tool, as a weapon. It can be used as a weapon.
That's true.
I mean, a lot of times, like darker skinned kids grow up with insecurities because they've heard it so many times. Like even amongst their friends when they're younger, they'll get teased about it, and that actually starts something that they carry with them through their adulthood.
Well, don't you think light-skinned people, light-skinned blacks at least, have the same problem? As in, a lot of people don't accept them as being, for example, black because they are mixed or they are light-skinned.
They get it from a different aspect. Like, you're always taught like you're a strong black person, like strong black woman, strong black man. But a lot of times when a light-skinned person is doing something something that you should be proud of, a lot of times they don't get the recognition, or they don't get the love that a darker skinned person would get because they're lighter. And I think what that stems from is way back, maybe like in slavery days. Like you'd have lighter skinned people are the ones that were normally inside of the house or whatever, and then the darker skinned people were outside in the sun, getting cotton or whatever. So that kind of created a rift, and that passed on from generation to generation, and even till today, like kids are mocking each other because of it.
I think we the only not generation, but ethnicity that separates skin color.
Mm-hmm. So who do you think has it worse? Do you think that the dark skinned blacks or the light skinned blacks has it worse? Would I be considered light skinned or dark skinned?
You're in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, you know,
I don't know what you are. I don't know what you are.
I'm mocha. Okay.
What do you want to be classified as?
I'm mocha. It depends on the situation. You know what I mean? It all depends. But
If the situation benefits him, he's
so
whatever.
in 2020, you think that the lighter skinned blacks has it worse?
I don't know.
For example,
I don't think so.
You know, some people say that Obama isn't really black or Kaepernick isn't really black.
I think the reason they say Kaepernick's not black is because he's mixed, right?
But is he black to you?
You basically, yeah, he is black to me. And if you're normally what happens is if you're mixed with black and whatever, you're considered black. And he considers himself black, even though he was raised by a
Caucasian
white family.
Yes.
He
Okay.
does consider himself black, but he doesn't get,
The
and
recognition.
he didn't get that recognition earlier on, especially when he was going through the kneeling movement that he was doing because of the systemic racism. A lot of people weren't on his side because they didn't associate him as being black.
But how could that be true if Tiger Woods was pretty much in a similar predicament? But everyone always categorizes him as black. When you hear Tiger Woods, they always say black.
Everybody but Tiger Woods.
What do you
Oh,
mean? What
he
you mean?
himself. He himself has said that he's not black. What exactly did he say? Like, I think he was. They had an interview about him, and he mentioned that he's not.
Because his mom, I think she's from the Philippines.
Yeah, he's his mom is from the Philippines, and his dad is African American. But they asked him a question about race, and he basically said he wasn't black.
Okay.
Until he went to jail.
Hey, that's how it is sometimes. Okay, so we talked about men. Now let's go ahead and talk about women. What type of effect do you think that this form of colorism has had on women in general, and pretty much how they perceive themselves, whether or not they're beautiful, whether or not they can actually associate with their fellow sisters because of the color of their skin?
They've been getting it as well.
Do you think that black women have a tendency to emulate their lighter counterparts? And do you feel as though there's a problem with that? Because what I see is oftentimes when it's the reverse, for example, they'll call it cultural appropriation. But oftentimes, for example, with our African American sisters, I like weave, but they like to wear it, right? But that's technically not how their hair is. Their hair is naturally curly, but oftentimes you tend to see a lot of women wear their hair straight. They tend to get relaxers. What's your outlook on that?
I mean, I don't mind if a woman gets their hair relaxed. I don't mind if they go the natural way and go with a fro or whatever. It to me, it's all what makes them feel good about themselves. If it makes them feel good about themselves to straighten their hair, then I'm all for it.
Well, let's say this. When it comes down to breaking it down between light skin, dark skin, I think it starts in the household.
Okay.
It's got to be that each one teach one mentality. I think it starts with the parents.
Yeah.
And to me, let's let this be known. Every African American woman, every black woman in the world is a queen to me. You're beautiful. Understand that. You are a beautiful part of this world. And God made you like that. But with my daughter, I tell my daughter every day, and I could care less her complexion.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell her every day when she wakes up, you're beautiful. And she needs to know that. Because the world will take you and chew you up and swallow you.
Yeah.
If you let it.
If they don't hear it from their parents, they'll hear it from somebody else, and they'll sometimes will end up with someone that treats them not the best.
Well,
So
insecurities, poor self-esteem,
It starts at a young age.
Because let's say this too as well. Dealing with these kids, when you're around, and the generations are different now. These kids will say anything to you. Kids are the most honest people on the face of the earth.
That's true.
And they will let you know what they think about you.
That is true.
And they can hear what their mom or dad said about somebody else at work related or whatever, and they'll take that to school and say that to that kid.
Okay, so let's take this a little deeper since we're delving on this topic. We're talking about essentially self-hate, where we're being divisive against each other, where we're putting light skin versus dark skin. As I mentioned, these are tough economic times, and there is a lot of turmoil going on. Nowadays, there's a lot of, say, for example, police brutality on African American men, but there's also a lot of African American men, violence on African American men. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's right that we scream Black Lives Matter when we're killing ourselves? When you look at the rates of, for example, in Chicago, when you look at the amount of blacks killing blacks, or in Detroit and those areas, do you think it's more so because systemic oppression? Is it because we don't love ourselves? Or do you think that as a whole we're just making an excuse?
It starts within our culture. It starts on our block, our street, our household. We have to let these kids know, like, it's not good to go out here and carry guns just to be carrying a gun. A gun is for self-defense, for one.
Okay.
We shouldn't hurt each other. Because if I'm able to treat somebody like that, if I'm treating Chest Out Rudy like that, the next person on the outside looking in gonna think, well, his own kind is doing that.
Yeah.
His own race is doing that. So why can't I say something about that person?
Okay.
Now, let me just say this too. Blacks are not the only ones that's killing blacks.
No,
That's true, but
no,
we're not talking
we didn't
about
say
it.
that.
Yeah, no.
We didn't say that.
Okay, so blacks do have they do kill blacks, but whites kill whites as well at probably
Facts.
the same exact ratio or percentages. Now, why is it that we're hearing more about black on black? Is it because it makes better news?
It's more popular.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll rebuttal that. So you guys say that the black on black crime is a result of the household. How's the household supposed to be correct when systemic oppression doesn't permit it to actually be correct? For example, if you look at the incarceration of African American men compared to other races, it's disproportionately high in regards to the criteria to meet, say, for example, Section 8 living. In some senses, the male can't even be around the house. So whereas most cultures, you have two parents raising someone, you have one parent raising someone, and that parent has to find a way to eat. You grew up in a household where you had how many brothers and sisters?
I have 9 brothers.
See, I'm pretty
Nine
sure
brothers.
it took a lot to support them. So say, for example, you're in the south side of Chicago. Your mother has 10 kids. All you see is violence around you. There's no male presence. There's no mentors. There's no Steve-O's. There's no Chest Out Rudies. There's none of that. And you're pretty much learning as you go. And your only influences are the dope boys, the robbers, the jack boys, the guys that just got out of prison. And they've been perpetuating this cycle that you've seen your entire life. Hey, I'm from an O block. He's from 63rd. Courtney know what I'm talking about. He's from 63rd, right? And you're just taught from the moment that you're born. Like you said, kids are honest, but kids are also impressionable. So the first thing you learn is, hey, I don't like that guy over there, even though he looks like me. So how could that be something that is instilled in them at home when what they learn is all that they know, and there's no one to actually teach them at home?
Well, that's why I don't mean to cut you off. That's why when you have an OG, when you
Yeah.
have somebody that's older, that's been in the streets and that's doing this, and you see that young guy that's walking out the house going to school every day.
Yeah.
Instead of you putting a gun in his hand or giving him some bad encouragement, you should put a book in his hand. Sit him down, put a couple dollars in his hand.
But that's true. But you know, the world is built, America's built on capitalism. So that's going to trickle down to the bottom. Say, for example, if I'm a big time kingpin and I'm in Detroit, right? I need to continue my business. What's the best way? Just like we're talking about African American history right now. How was this country built? On free labor. So who's not going to charge you? Kids. That's free labor. So if you got an employee that's going to sell dope for you, that's going to be the muscle. If you need somebody taken out, they're going to do it without even thinking twice. If you got all of this free labor, the OG, a good OG would probably say, hey man, I'm going to show you a better way. But 9 times out of 10, if he's trying to make money, he's trying to be profitable, he's trying to maintain that status, he's not going to look out for that kid's best interest. He's just going to see him as an asset.
Well, let's talk about why a lot of African Americans are in, quote unquote, the ghettos more than, their white counterparts. Like back in the day, when African Americans wanted to go and purchase homes, they were stuck with higher interest rates, a lot of times they weren't even were allowed to purchase homes in certain areas. So they were kind of pushed into certain areas, and those areas were crowded. So when you're stuck in a dense area that's completely crowded like that, it's hard for you to really actually make a living and feel free. So you're on top of each other. So anger basically shows its face. You have aggression, and then you're gonna have conflicts between black on black. Whereas in the other side of town, whites were in nice suburban households with yards and things like that. So that really didn't happen as frequently as it did in the black ghettos. So it's all because of systemic racism that black people are, condensed in those small places, and they're basically having these black on black crimes.
Now look, I would admit gentrification could potentially play a portion in that, but I want to ask you a question. You mentioned that blacks were pushed out into areas where they're on top of each other. In New York, what's one of the most densely populated places there? New York is just densely populated in itself, but I'm pretty sure Manhattan is too as well, right? What's the crime rate in a densely populated area compared to Chicago, in the south side of Chicago? So I think that there's a bigger issue there as opposed to this.
Well, Manhattan, is it mostly homes or is it mostly businesses?
I mean, it's New York. It's
I mean, if you're talking about Manhattan itself,
Yeah.
are you talking about the boroughs like Brooklyn? All the different
Bronx.
So
Yeah.
there's a difference between Manhattan itself, because Manhattan is basically the business capital of
Yeah.
the world. So you're not going to have as many homes there. So you're not going to have a high crime rate. But Chicago is different. It's basically houses on top of houses.
But what I'm saying is, as we mentioned, yeah, it's cool that we propagate the message that, hey man, we're being a victim. They're killing us. But what I'm saying is, even though we are densely populated, this isn't the first time we've been in densely populated areas together, and that doesn't give us a reason to necessarily kill each other, or that doesn't give us a reason to say, because you're light skinned and I'm dark skinned, I shouldn't like you as much.
And it doesn't. But unfortunately, that's the world that we live in, and unfortunately, that stuff has been passed down from generation to generation. And if a kid sees their parents doing something, they're gonna eventually do the same thing, whether or not they want to or not. And sometimes it takes them years for them to understand and see exactly what they're doing to be able to change that. But sometimes it's too late.
Okay, Corey, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Oftentimes, we're going to talk about women right now again. They have a criteria. They want certain things in a man, but I oftentimes find out that if a man usually has a preference like this light versus dark thing, they get very upset. You can really upset a woman if you tell them that your preference isn't what they are. So why do you think that's so? Why do you think that women get upset? Not just African American women, but just women in general, light skin, dark skin. Why do you think they get upset if you have a preference that isn't what they are?
I just think as men, we discriminate against our own race sometimes. You have to think about it. What do we perceive when we're dealing with having kids and stuff like that? You want the kids with the curly hair. You want the kids with the nice complexion. You want the kids with this and that. And
My baby got that curly hair.
My baby got that good hair.
That good hair.
But that's the way that we was programmed to think.
Yeah,
But I think the older I got, I looked at the situation and I just want a healthy child,
yeah.
a beautiful child.
Okay. What about you, Rudy? What's your outlook on that?
I think it plays on their insecurities.
Oh, explain.
I mean, again, it's stuff that's been going on for years and years and years, and then you hear somebody says, "Oh, I don't like you because of your skin color. I prefer this." So it's stuff that they've heard. Maybe they pushed it deep down, and they were able to move on. But things have a way of manifesting itself when you grow older. And when they hear stuff like that, it just brings them right back down to when they first heard it, or it could have been when they were kids. It just brings them right back to that again.
Okay, so do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference.
That's a lie. You gotta have a preference.
That sounded very
You
political.
gotta have a, yeah, you gotta have a
Political
preference.
answer.
Why you got to put me on the spot like
I'm
that?
just
man?
asking you a simple question.
Do you have a preference?
Okay, my preference is this. I like a girl that's about my skin complexion.
What's your
I'm
skin
not.
complexion?
What am I?
Chocolate?
I'm dark.
You like Wesley Snipes. You like Michael Blackson black.
Oh, that's,
He talking about ultra black. Yeah.
oh man.
The opposite
I'm
of
not that
Doja
dark.
Cat.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, you see what you're saying? You doing right now?
What?
You see
I was
what you?
reciting the
do you
Nas-
see-
I was reciting
do you
Nas
see
lyrics.
what you're doing right now? You're actually proving the exact same point that we're talking about today.
What's
you're
that?
talking about Michael Blackson and you're talking about how dark he is.
That is a lyric from
and we're making fun of that. See, it happens. We sometimes we don't realize that it's happening, but it happens.
It becomes a domino effect.
Yeah.
Those
So-
are
The
the
kid hears it in the room. The kid takes it to school, and before you
Yeah,
know it,
like,
they
and-
call
and-
it home and
yeah.
say, "Hey, your child just called somebody such and such."
Yeah, you probably don't even realize
I
you're
love
paying
Michael
for
Blackson.
that.
I
You
got a
don't
picture of
realize.
Michael Blackson.
Yeah.
Hey,
oh.
Nate, hey, I'm gonna have you put that up there one day. All right, we might have to put that in. You know, I love my black people.
So we talked about the problems, which everyone can do, but what's the solution? What do you think could solve this problem?
We got to go back to the household. We got to sit these kids down. We have to have these conversations. Because if you don't have a conversation with these kids, they're going to go on the outside and hear something totally different.
My thing is, they have to be shown love at home. They have to be told that they're beautiful. They have good hair, good teeth, like everything. I mean, you have to build that confidence in them. If they start off young, knowing that, okay, well, my mom said my hair is not good, or I don't have good hair, or my dad thinks I'm darker than my other sisters or whatever, and so they, at a young age, they'll pick up on all these things, and sometimes, like I said before, they'll be able to compartmentalize some of these things and forget about them. But later on in life, it will rear its head again.
I remember with my child, I remember reading a book by Joel Osteen called Becoming a Better You. And Joel Osteen has one son, one daughter. They're older now, they're in college. But Joel used to always tell his daughter and son when he dropped them off to school, being a great father, he told his kids on a day-to-day basis, you could be anything you want to be. He always tried to make a deposit into his kid's life instead of taking a withdrawal. So making a deposit, making a good comment to your kids. So what I started doing every single day, because I do take my daughter to school and I do pick her up before this pandemic. So I will always tell my daughter every single day, even though I knew she didn't like me doing it, I would say, baby, you are the most beautiful person in this world. I love you. You could do anything. You're the smartest. You have to be very informative when it comes to these kids.
Little things like that, they'll appreciate. And
Yes.
they'll take it to heart, man. Even though they may act like they're like, oh, Dad, why are you always doing this? But they appreciate that stuff,
Yes.
man. I'm sure.
Man, I hate to be the negative Nancy, but I honestly don't think there is a solution. There's an old saying that says it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I don't think that it's something that we can control. The only way that I think that it actually can be controlled is similar to what Rudy meant, what he said earlier in regards to getting over your insecurities. Because just like with COVID, just like with Ebola, just like with anything major that happens in the world, our ideologies are controlled by what we consume. And nowadays, everyone's consuming social media. So whatever the perception is of beauty at that time is what everyone's going to want to be. So if it's a long hair, petite body, that's what it's going to be. If it's afro, curvy, that's what it's going to be. So not only black and white, light skin, dark skin, Spanish, what I think is, as a race, we have to look deep inside of ourselves and just learn to get over our insecurities and learn that everything isn't for everybody. Because even if I tell Rudy right now he's looking a little flat, he's holding water, the next day he goes to the gym, if he's not secure with himself, he's probably gonna work out a little harder or
I'll
feel
be at
bad.
the gym at least 4 or 5 hours.
That's what I'm saying. So honestly, to this particular problem, I think that the only solution is just learning to overcome any insecurities that you might have. And as a kid, I definitely do agree that instilling things into them, boosting their confidence will help. But
I have a
there's only so
question.
much
I have
you
a
can do.
question. Do you think that buying your kids brown skin dolls as opposed to light skin or white dolls will make a big difference?
I think that it could have an everlasting effect, because what happens is it kind of broadens their horizons subconsciously. Whatever you believe It's based on what you see, what you can visualize. So that perception of beauty is created with the white Barbie doll if it's a black female. So she's going to try to emulate that. She's going to try to be that Barbie, whatever that Barbie is. And that's probably why we have a lot of women nowadays that are African American that wants the straight hair, that wants the eyelashes, that wants to be super petite, because they didn't see anything that looked like them. They didn't hold anything that looks like them. I'm around kids a lot nowadays, and they always hold up their superheroes. They want to dress like their superheroes. They want to act like their superheroes. If a little boy has a Spider-Man toy, guess who he is for the day? He's Spider-Man. So
Yes.
if that Barbie doll has blue eyes and long hair, guess who that girl's gonna want to be for the day? That Barbie doll. And guess who that guy's gonna want to be? Not Rudy. He's gonna want to be Ken.
Well, my,
Did your wife do that?
my wife was very particular about that when it came to my child. And I did not understand at that particular time, because we would go to a store or what's the baby doll? The American the American Girl doll.
Yeah, American.
The American Girl doll.
Yeah.
They got a big one over at the Florida Mall. So you could build this doll. So my wife will always want to get, and the first thing, my daughter is just natural. She would grab a Caucasian doll, a white doll. And one day my wife said, "No, we're not doing this. You're going to get somebody that's a reflection of you, a black doll." And my daughter got upset, but she didn't understand at the time. And my wife broke it down to her. So I had to ask myself the question: if you had a young girl that was Caucasian, would the mom buy her a black baby doll? And once I painted myself that picture, I got it. I said, you know what? I'm fine with that. You want somebody that looks like your child.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, because if that's all you see everywhere you go, then you're gonna associate that with beauty.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, like African Americans did not have anything that they can associate with. So young girls had to get the white Barbie doll.
Yeah, you know what's sad?
I think television and music has a big impact on that too as well.
You know what's sad? You mentioned that for a long time, African American women and African American men didn't have anyone that they could look up to, and the only one that they were able to look up to just passed. And you saw how catastrophic that was to them. That just shows you the impact that in 1 year of that, or 2 years of the movie being out, what type of impact it had on people. They felt as though it was a piece of hope. They felt as though it was them being empowered, like people finally realizing that they're valuable too, just because he was selected to be a superhero and he was African American.
Because for the longest time, I don't think that we were considered marketable, like that we can actually bring money to the box offices as superheroes. So we were never depicted in these movies as superheroes. Now
I think Spawn was black. I think.
Yeah, he was.
Also, Spawn
but
would count. Huh?
That movie, it actually didn't really do as well as they hoped.
So Blade wasn't a superhero. Hey man, he made dark skinned dudes popping. That's been enough talking for today. We're gonna go ahead.
Let the listeners chime in on that stuff. If you have any comments on that, chime in. Let E know that he's wrong. He's not always right.
Yeah, let him know that
man.
If you're a grown man, you make choices. Okay, we making choices out here. So with that being said, we just wanted to talk to you guys about something serious: generational curses, light skin versus dark skin, Kaepernick, Obama, included all of that. It's your boy E Fitness signing off. You guys want to say anything else before we go?
As always, stay humble, stay swole, chest out,
baby. Hey,
Make your dreams bigger and your circle smaller. Chest out.
before we go, I just wanted to leave off with this: a mistake made more than once is a decision. No generational curses, generational choices. At least that's my take on it. If you got something to say about it, let me know. You guys got something to say?
chime in,
Comment.
All right.
comment,
And as you guys
subscribe.
already know, you find us on iTunes, Spotify. You guys know the rest.
YouTube.
Podcast.
Speaker.
all of them,
All of them.
all the major ones.
Hey,
Let's
go
go
ahead.
and
Hey,
listen.
go ahead, Rudy.
Let me get 2 chest beats and Ric Flair.